Yeah, we'll start the class. Hari Om Namaste, everyone. Om Sadashiva-Samarambham Shankaracharya-Madhyamam Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yes, so welcome everyone to the class, and we are now doing revision of chapter 3, and we have seen the first 3 verses. First 9 verses. We have seen the first 9 verses, and we have also, in a lot of details, appreciated intellectually, convincing ourselves not as a forced convincing, but through understanding. Appreciating is the right word. Appreciating the fact that human beings are endowed with a special capacity, feature, a uniqueness that defines a human birth, which is that we can modify our own prakrit swabhav, our own nature. We can change it. We can attempt through consistent practice, we can attempt to undergo a change which is conducive for us, which is right for us, which is correct for us, which is beneficial for us. In one word, which is Shreyas for us, what takes us to our own betterment. We, through our own understanding, buddhi, knowledge acquired, through parampara, through shastra, through wisdom acquired in vyavhar, to be able to know what is correct knowledge, through all that, once a buddhi is formed. Formation of buddhi means I have the right knowledge. I have the right data in my understanding. I have doubtless data, is how Shastra would say. Samshay rahit. ज्ञान अंतकरण में हमारे, in our own minds, the knowledge that we have is free of all doubts. That knowledge is helpful, extremely helpful. In fact, when we understand the value of Shastra Vidya, we realize this is the greatest wealth. Very, 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 very rare. I have used the word rare very often because that's the way I am able to conceptualize or appreciate the odds, odds of our life coming across this knowledge. Those odds are, when you weigh them in all the possibilities that we can live our life, the possibility that Shastra Vidya has come into our life or we've got exposed to it, that exposed enough for that knowledge to be samshay rahit, that there is absolute clarity about the vision of the Vedas and how it helps human being progress to what is their shreyas. Again, I repeat, there are certain words which are purely shastric in terms. Shastras provided those words. Like I said in the last class, if anatomy gives me certain names, you can't hope that a translation of that name will give me a meaning of that name. It is to be understood. It's a name given. That name has an entire concept behind it. That name has an entire bundle of information. It's a name. So if I say uh, hamstrings, quadriceps, it's a bundle of information in that one word. In the same way, every field of knowledge has its own bundle of words that are specific to that field of knowledge. Without that, you cannot convey knowledge from one person to another person without these terminologies introduced in between to help convey the words. These terminologies are wrappers. शब्द एक साधन है. Words are wrappers. They're wrapped. Wrapped in them is the content of that word, what it conveys. So there are a lot of words that are purely Shastric. Vedas have given us. One of them is Shreyas. Shreyas means that whole concept of self-evolution, whole concept of inner growth, the entire path that takes us towards our ultimate destination as we perceive it. We look for Shanti, we look for a changeless state of happiness. What we perceive as changeless state in which I wish to abide, that sthan, that state, that avastha, that position, Shastra says what takes you towards it is called Shreyas, and what will take you away from that position, that sthan, will be Preyas. Further meaning of Shreyas and Preyas, Kadhopanishad of course describes it in details. We'll just touch upon it. Preyas, further details, what is it? Because now you have told us that what takes me to my higher evolution, that is Shreyas. But what is higher evolution? What is my final goal? What am I really seeking? If you say it's absolute peace, I identify, but will I really, the seeking will end over there? Is it a state which you can live with? Is it something to be aspired for after death? Is it something that is going to come automatically? Will it come only by grace, God's grace, or elders, somebody? Will it come? How does all that knowledge that comes in a word, Shreyas, What will take you to your Shreyas? The entire bundle of knowledge is packed in the word Shreyas. Means wherever we are, in whichever position and state of our present life starting, the starting of our present life is there. From here onwards, this life, we can employ it, we can live this life towards our Shreyas. Prayas that will take us away from Shreyas, opposite direction. Which means if Shreyas is defining itself as more and more Shanti, more and more movement towards one's inner nature, more and more independence of seeking happiness, abiding in a state of Atmarati, Atma Santushti, Atma Tripti, more and more of that is Shreyas, then more and more that takes me away from it is Prayas, which means less and less Shanti, less and less Atmarati, less and less Atma Santushti, less, more and more strife, more and more struggle, more and more disturbance, more agitation, more uncertainty, more insecurity, more fears, more of everything. And that prayers towards prayers. How does one keep moving towards prayers? Shastra says, more you indulge in your sensory pleasures and avoid doing whatever are your obligatory duties, more you slip towards prayers. It will take you towards prayers. These are the causes why your gati towards your prayer marg will strengthen itself, will uh, will will enhance or will increase. Why that samsara feeling will increase? Because more indulgence in sense pleasures and less of doing one's duties. One's duties, again in English, is a very vague term. What I define as duty, and does Shastra define that as duty? Shastra's definition of duty was nitya karma, niyatam karma kuru, tvam. Krishna has told Arjuna, constantly do your karmas that you are ought to be doing. Now, what are these karmas that I ought to be doing that Shastra sees that I should do? Shastra sees that a human being should be doing these karmas. What are those more and more karmas that Shastra sees as doing? It classifies them as nitya karma, naimittika karma. These are something that you should be doing. And in those nitya karmas are your daily duties. Daily as in regular. If you miss a day or two, doesn't matter. It's not like every day, and if you don't do, there'll be some sin you have incurred. And Vedas don't have the concept of sin and things like that. It has just a concept of karma. A karma means you do good karma, you get good results. You don't do good karma, you don't get good results. It ends there. There is nobody sitting up there who's going to be a punisher, who's going to judge your karma. There is no judgment held on your karma by any Bhagwan anywhere. But there is a Bhagwan, the attribute to Veda's attribute, that there is a Bhagwan who is a नियंत्र करता है किस चीज को? Who's a controller, who controls entire सृष्टि based on your karma phal. Each one gets their own respective karma phal. Who ordains that? Who controls that? It is not that he is sitting there as a judgment, calculating the good and the bad. It is that how your karmas have to fructify to give a result, that environment he provides. What is due for your own karma? That environment creator provides, Bhagwan provides, Ishwar, that is the role of Ishvara. So those karmas that you ought to be doing, which Vedas have ordained, they ordained according to a structure of life. They proposed a structure of life that a human being should live. And if we follow that structure, Shreyas is inevitable. And the final definition of Shreyas, I'm repeating, the final meaning of Shreyas is moksha. So, what takes me more and more towards inner peace and happiness and independence and everything that I seek, freedom from struggle? The ultimate point, the absolute point of that is called moksha. Hereby, I'm freed of all karmas and karma phalas, etc., etc. Which means I'm freed of the entire realm of limitation. So, those niyatam karmas that Shastra Vedas proposed to human being according to a structure that it it advocates, which will help every human being, irrespective of what your previous karmas has brought you as janma in this life. Again, I'm repeating myself because sometimes we feel maybe your minds are elsewhere or our emphasis was elsewhere, and a very important point could be missed, and then the whole knowledge will not have the same receptivity on, because you may miss a certain point, either I may miss saying it emphatically. Vedas are entirely, completely benevolent to humankind. In the verse, 10th verse, Krishna is saying, Vyasa is saying, taking the stand of the Creator Himself, is saying that you are supposed to be working for your own Shreyas, means human being is designed for Shreyas. You're supposed to you're supposed to human being is eligible, not supposed to. Shastra does not have any suppositions. Human being is eligible for moksha, as I just said in the starting of the class. Those karmas, um, those gati that one can make in a lifetime, that birth that one can employ, whoever is born, wherever you have, you are, whoever, irrespective of color, caste, creed, gender, religion, human being is your qualification, and it ends there. Wherever you are born, in whichever family you find your birth, that is supposed to be the right earned by you yourself, by your own previous gati, by your own previous karma. Therefore, the Creator in a Vedic view has only provided you an environment to further your Shreyas gati towards your Shreyas. Whoever, I'm repeating it because our culture, our Vedic tradition has been highly criticized because of non understanding of this fundamental. And it is deliberately misrepresented in society more often than not. The right voice is always subdued because it is in the interests of others or whoever, willingly, unwillingly, we don't mind. But fact is that the right understanding does not get assertion in the society, acceptance in the society. What is that? What is in common called as varna ashrama. So Veda's view was the society is classified based on varna and ashrama. I am again repeating myself, just in case it has slipped your hearing or my emphasis is less. We are born in a particular set of environment by our own past accumulation of our own karma. By that phala, uh, all that the Creator has done, Bhagwan has done, Ishvara has done, is given us an environment in which we find ourselves, and that environment is most beneficial for us for our further gati, for our further self growth, for our shreyas, towards our shreyas. Therefore, whether I am born in a particular class, in a particular place, with a particular set of gunas, these Varna and Ashram are divided on the basis of gunas. Whether I am born in the particular set of gunas, it is not a judgment from the Vedas view. It is a helpful system for the individual to follow certain niyat karmas within those gunas to help them grow towards their shreyas. Vyavharik drishti, I'm not talking about. There are a lot of confusions that have arisen, some deliberately caused, I'm repeating, some deliberately insisted upon, no, that is not what Vedas mean, etc. Therefore, somehow this system has fallen from the society. We have not allowed our society to be led based on this categorization, whereby there is no higher or lower, there is a complete mutual acceptance of every person, and for everyone, their own gati starts from where they are born. So, niyatam karmas, which is also called nitya karmas and naimittika karmas, were all classified based on your varna and ashrama. By your own gunas, they define it. But since the society is no longer, our present society at least, most of us are not in knowledge of what are varnas and ashram still we can, but we are not in cognition of what those duties are. Karam Yog, through third chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives us alternative. And that alternative is a changing, I forget the word, it's a changing, it changes everything. What does it change? While before you could only do karmas which were based on varna and ashrama, and they were specific ways alone, which here in this is talking of as yajna in particular, is that concept, technical term, which has a whole knowledge compacted in it. They were yajnas. But through Karam Yoga, Krishna allows us Krishna allows us to convert any karma that we are doing into a nitya karma, into a niyata karma, into a karma which will take us towards our shreyas. Karma by itself is bondage, binds us to phal, and therefore we are born again and again. To free ourselves from the cycle, we are taught through the Shastra Vidya. What is that fine technique doing which, how you do your karmas, you can slowly be freed from the bondage, and of course, since the context is Shreyas, move towards Shreyas. So, doing your niyatam karmas, nitya naimittika karmas, those nitya naimittika karmas, here now, as Krishna has said, Karam Yog, do it for the Ishvara Prityartham. Ishvara Prityartham means for the sake of Ishvara. That's the highest form of Karam Yoga. I am doing it for the sake of the totality. That totality word, when I'm bringing, representing the totality as the creator, this totality is not based on a individual. This totality is, creation is, has a source. Creation has a origin. Creation has a master, controller. Again, since these concepts are all interlinked, one has to keep following them. That controller doesn't mean they are judgmental. That controller means regulator. Just as you have a manager in a company who only regulates the niyamas that are set. Therefore, such a controller, what is he doing? This creation, he is the one, he, genderless. When I say he, it doesn't mean Bhagwan is he, genderless. It's a controller of the niyamas. Those niyamas, when I see the totality operating on it, you realize that I am nothing but a spoke in a wheel. What am I in the large canvas of this creation, in this large galaxy of possibilities? Who is this existent being? Who is this person? Who is this who's now talking or listening or thinking or feeling or wanting? Or who is this who wakes up every day morning and knows another day has gone? Who is this? Who is this who is the manager of, I'm sorry, who is this who's the one who's finding themselves in the creation? That one who finds themselves in creation as a small tiny bit also has a duty to sustain the creation for the other beings, because for our sustenance we take help from other beings. That's a fact. Now I am uncoding yajna as a concept. When karmas are done from a totality point of view, that totality, what all can you include in your knowledge? What all in your perception is totality word including? To most of us, the totality really reaches only up to our neighborhood and maybe our family and extended, to sometimes our pets if we have any, and but everywhere the center is related to myself, me. What all includes in your totality? If this was a physical class, we could have paused here and taken a discussion. But this is online, we have our own format of learning through this. Therefore, what is this that is included in totality in your understanding? If you contemplate on it, you realize our own thinking stops at what is drishyam. Drishyam means jo dikh raha hai. We stop at that. We do not know what, obviously, we can't see. Here comes the help of Shastras, Gyan. Totality also includes the elemental forces that are actually the primary reason for our existence: space, air, fire, water, earth. Without these, even the body will not be formed. Now, these elements from our modern education, we look upon them as inert. We look upon them as matter. What is matter? Space, air, fire, water, earth. The minute you call them matter, you call them as inert, jad. Jad is the right word. Jad means doesn't show life, doesn't have life. Jad hai. But from the Vedic perspective, what appears as jad also has chaitanya. Chaitanya means there is a, the elements themselves are expressions of a force. Water has force, Vayu has, Jal has force, Vayu has force, Agni has force, space, of course, has its own qualities, and earth has its own, they all have their respective qualities. Whatever has qualities that they are unique to themselves, we are recipients of those Also, we are sustaining ourselves because of these forces. Those forces Vedas calls as those that are the master of these forces, which our eyes and ears and nose and smell and tongue and cannot know them. So our organs of knowledge cannot understand these master of these forces, but Vedas would, Vedic knowledge would tell us they are now called Devtas. They are Devatas, which means if you have fire in a lamp, the very first fire that was invoked by rubbing the stones, and mankind must have really felt so excited. I mean, I love to project it sometimes like that. When fire was discovered by a human being, that spark on lighting to on rubbing to stones, there must have been sudden, from ignorance there was actually light. We did not know what fire was that we could create by natural forces. If there was fire because of lightning and etc., maybe man must have experienced that, but man did not know that you could create fire. You could, I'm saying create in a limited sense, you could invoke fire is the Vedic sense. Fire is our modern understanding. You will invoke fire is the Vedic understanding. We can invoke fire. So, what did we do when we rubbed two stones? The fire that was already there has now got invoked. And that invoking of the fire, which means for it to be invoked, it was in its unmanifest state before. It was not expressing itself. It was not visible to us. It was not a known knowledge to us by our senses. It was in its unmanifest state. Unmanifest means fire is not unmanifest. Our senses do not see it in its state. When our senses start to see it in its expression, we call it as manifest. So, what is manifest fire? When my eyes are seeing the form, the color, and my skin is feeling the heat, and my ear hears the sparkling of the sparks. And beautiful sound they make. Now, now I say this is fire. That fire that is there in a small lamp, ignited, invoked, that is a representator of the totality of fire. This fire is not separate from the total fire. The totality of fire element, so wherever, in whichever part of the world, in whichever generation, whichever century, whichever create, as long as a human being is there, you are going to be an experiencer of fire in this example. That experiencer of fire in its totality state, that it exists, fire exists in its totality. That fire in totality is called a Devata, controls the element as if. That Devata, which my senses can't see, but I am able to appreciate when I'm given an explanation, when I'm made to see. When knowledge is given, Vedas share it. In your totality understanding, are these elemental forces also included in your growth of your understanding of totality? Is there an expansion of your understanding of what is totality, for which you have a duty to perform, for which you must have a duty to undergo? You must have a duty, niyatam karma. You must have a duty. You have a duty towards it. That duty, what are these? Again, over here we saw these have been simplified for our following as Pancha Mahayajnas. By the time uh, the Smriti Granthas came, the actual oblations that are made in the real physical yajna that were a part of it, where you're offering to devatas in a physical form of a worshipful action, which only a human being can do. I'm repeating, it's very important, subtle. Maybe my expressions may also not be so clear, so I'm repeating till it gets clearer. Yagna is that important, that specific knowledge that Vedas gives us of how to do a kind of a karma in which there is an offering to a devata. Totality, now repeat that word, devata, totality. You know, there's an offering done to that totality on your part. And that yajna is a prayer, it's a worshipful attitude. And what is a prayer? It is only thankfulness, it's only gratitude. Sarvesham Jananam Sukha Shanti, for the sake of everybody's Sukha and Shanti, or for the sake of Dharma Samsthapanartham, for the sake of Dharma being established, remain established, because on the basis of Dharma, life flourishes. He's going to say it in these verses now. Dharma is the reason how life flourishes. So, based on Dharma, this action is for that sake. I'm offering it. Means my mind is in a prayerful attitude. It's a worshipful action. As I said again, how you decode these understandings is up to each one of us. That worshipful, prayerful, it's a bhav. It's a it's a knowledge of totality in which you can connect to. Those actions are now called yajna, and that simplifies for the sake of following our Pancha Mahayagnas by the time we come to our uh, stage where life becomes more and more fast paced and less time, because all these karmas take a lot of time in a day. Not a lot, but they do take some time, more than, depends on how much we are able to, but they take time. They're included in your daily schedule. They were to be included in your daily schedule according to the Vedic vision, and it is for your shreyas that they said include them in your daily schedule, regular schedule at least, if you can't make it daily. Those karmas, those that are to be done daily or regularly, nitya karmas, naimittika karmas. Naimittika means occasionally done, specific conditions in which you do a specific karma. Uh, like in those days, it was popular. Maybe even now, some parts of the country, people would be doing it. Amavasya, uh, Shrad, etc. These are very important, but they're not regular, they are occasional. As per the occasion, you do those duties. It's like how we celebrate birthdays or annual. They're occasional celebrations. They don't be celebrated every day, though we know that we are born every day, but we don't celebrate a birthday every day. Actual date is what you take as a occasion representing a celebration. In the same way, those are occasional duties. As per the occasion, there are certain karmas to be done. Those karmas, for especially when you grow older and have responsibilities and you enter grahasthashram, those karmas were pancha mahayajnas. Those pancha mahayajnas are brahma yajna, pitra yajna, deva yajna, bhuta yajna, and uh, manushya yajna. What is Brahma Yajna? There's a verse which qualifies these five. Adhyapanam Brahma Yajna. Adhyapanam means self study of your own As I said, in those days, it was your own shakha, your own varna ashrama, but there were certain alaukik shastra. Alaukik means not the regular survival, um, helpful knowledge which helps in surviving. Like we have modern education, it's entirely only for the sake of survival. But there was, along with it, in your everyday, there were um, certain knowledge that you had to acquire, and you were supposed to, based on that knowledge, do some study or do some parayanam or do some alaukik karma. That was adhyapanam. Self study is an English translation for it. Do your own self study. Self study means study the shastra. So for Vedanta, it's a very easy understanding. Study your Vedantic knowledge. Study it, not just hear it and let it go, but or hear it and it comes to your inspiration for a little while and then it's forgotten. Study it, make it a part of your daily schedule. Adhyapanam, that is self study, that is a part of your karma, every day, regular. Then you had Pitra Yajna, Tarpanam, Shraddh, etc., occasional duty. Then you have Homa, which is Deva Yajna. Offer different homas are there for different deities, for different names of Ishvara. From Vedantic Drishti, Ishvara is one. Brahman is actually the Nirgunam, formless, the true being, the true existence, the real, whatever terms you want to call it, your own absolute nature, knowing which alone will you be freed from samsar. That Brahman is uh, expressing manifest as Ishvara, and Ishvara itself has different names according to their different departments, I will say. So if they have a department of creation, you are Brahma. If you have a department of sustenance, you are Vishnu. If you have a department of uh, destruction and resolution, you are Shiva. If you are and further down again, so there's a whole hierarchy of departments, delegation of the same Brahman, delegating the control of this. That's a huge organization. We won't understand the totality probably if we didn't have this knowledge. But through Puranas help us understand all these. Uh, so devas. So you do your regular homas. Uh, Havan, it's called more popularly, but Homa is a more appropriate word. Havan is also in Hindi accepted. So Homas, Havans, offering them to various devtas. Now people associate only karma. इससे क्या फायदा होगा? कौन सा वहाँ भगवान बैठा है? जिसको हम we don't even know. I mean, all these forms of bhagwans are all depicting. They're all symbolically picked up from the Puranas and depicting as a form. Our own Tarka Buddhi will tell us what is the point of doing all this. What is the point of doing all this? If you ask yourself, why, क्या करके भगवान थोड़ी वहाँ बैठ के ये सब etc. The point is you are doing it as your duty to be done. When you do it with that, you are the recipient of that karma. फल आप ही का कर्म है, आप ही को फल मिलेगा. तो आपकी सोच के हिसाब से, अकॉर्डिंग टू योर ओन थिंकिंग, how much refinement in your attitude can you bring in these various karmas that are obligatory? They are called obligatory duties now. Your Panchamahayagnas become your obligatory duties. So, how well you refine your attitudes in them, these actions become a means to go on refining your attitude. That is how you start getting chitta shuddhi. Because every time you do a karma and you say, I do it for the sake of dharma samsthapanartham or sukha shanti or just ishvara priti artham, You are not doing an action for your sake. It's a karma that you are doing for the sake of totality. Therefore, gradually there is a purification of your own antakaranam through these karmas that happens, and that starts to move you towards your shreyas. So, your first, again, I've been saying first, your initial starting point is from that prakrit swabha, which is only raga dvesh yukta, only based on what I like and what I don't like, what I want to do and what I don't want to do, what I see good and what I don't see good for me. So if somebody is in a very pleasurable mode, then for them drinking and drugs and everything is very enjoyable. उनके लिए वो सही है. But how can I put a check on myself? क्या ये सही है? There will always be a counter. That counter, if we pick up as a Shastra Drishti, शास्त्र दृष्टि से मर्जी तुम्हारी, तुम कर सकते हो, लेकिन तुम्हारे श्रेयस नहीं है इसमें. आई एम रिपीटिंग द वर्ड्स. अकॉर्डिंग टू मी माई श्रेय, माई मेरी मर्जी है वेदर आई ड्रिंक एंड आई ड्रग एंड आई डू वॉट एवर आई वॉन्ट टू डू. मेरी मर्जी है, मेरी जिंदगी है. It's my life. I'll do what I want to do. Who's anybody else to tell me? Who's anybody else to control me? Who's anybody else to define what I should and what I should not? Yes, of course, मर्जी आपकी है. It's your life. You can. But if we take a counter viewpoint, because it's not an absolute right, not everybody wants to drug and drink. If you want to drug and drink, if there is a counterpoint, and that counterpoint we are able to take as Shastra Drishti, Vedic Drishti, according to Vedic Drishti, the Vedas will say, yes, you can please go ahead and do it, but ज्ञान क्या है, वो क्या एडवाइस देंगे साथ में, but it will not take you to your shreyas. It will take you more towards your samsara gati, adhogati. More and more difficulties will come in time and more difficult existence you will find yourself with. ये है शास्त्र का ज्ञान. शास्त्र इज entirely ज्ञान स्वभाव, ज्ञान स्वरूप. यहाँ पे कोई मैंडेट नहीं है, यहाँ पे कोई फोर्स नहीं है, यहाँ पे कोई कुछ भी तुम्हारी मर्जी के अलावा करने की जरूरत नहीं है. बट वेन यू आर एजुकेटेड कि इसमें मेरा भला नहीं है, आई ऑटोमेटिकली पुल माई सेल्फ अवे फ्रॉम दोज likes and dislikes that are naturally giving me instant pleasures. I enjoy it. You know, when Coca-Cola was brought into the country, it was such a huge fancy. I know I give a lot of examples from my childhood, but I guess they were important, significant, so I still hold them as changing my approach to life. Coca-Cola was so fascinating at that time, and we all know in those days everybody had limited pocket money our parents gave us. So Coca-Cola was a very luxury. It was a luxury, I would call it. It was an indulgence if you did. That Coca-Cola, today, people still drink, but there is a lot of knowledge that has come along with it, how useful or not so useful for you it is. That Coca-Cola, which is fascinating you, is an indriya sukh. आपको एक इंद्रिया का इमीडिएट प्लेजर मिलता है. इंद्रिया आपको इंस्टेंट सुख देती है. योर सेंसेस गिव यू इंस्टेंट प्लेजर. That instant pleasure, if you keep moving towards, that becomes moving towards praise. उन सुखों को अगर हम उनके पीछे पड़े रहते हैं, लगे रहते हैं, so इंद्रिय सुख gives us some pleasure, instant pleasure, and its nature is that as long as the contact of that sensory contact is there, you have the pleasure, and once the contact is disconnected, your pleasure ends. So it is actually instant. If you're smelling something nice, as long as your nose is taking in the fragrance, you have pleasure of that nice. Once the senses, the The smell has dissipated, the pleasure's gone. So, what is moving you towards greater and greater pleasure mode is your senses pleasure, sensory pleasure. And that sensory pleasure then becomes a habit. And that habit is obviously not so easy to break. Once a habit is formed, we all know it's not easy to break a habit. It is not impossible. That's what Shastra tells us. Human being, you can. As a human person, you can. But we become, it becomes more and more difficult to assert or change a habit as the habit gets strengthened. Therefore, those sensory pleasures should be regulated, restricted, so that you never become um, habitual to those pleasures. That brings up the level of your sense controls that Shastra tells us you must have. So, coming to that Deva Yajna again, that Deva Yajna, our minds may not see it because I say, what is the pleasure there? मुझे क्या मिल रहा है इस कर्म करके? मुझे तो कोई आनंद नहीं है. I only see my material being exhausted and my time exhausted and my nothing. I gain nothing. It's a hard work. Doing that is a hard work. But it is an opportunity for Chitta Shuddhi. And so he says here, that is your obligatory duty. Then the fourth one is Bhuta Yajna. Bhuta Yajna in really thousands of years. I don't even know how back we should go. But in the verse, it is very clearly saying Balihi Bhuta Yajna. That Balihi, which is also very controversial, Shastra on one hand says non-violence, ahimsa, paramo dharmaha. Your highest dharma is ahimsa. And yet Bhuta Yajna is said to be Balihi. In certain context, this karma comes. But it is only in a certain context. It does not advocate the Bali is as a prayer. It's not for taste. Here we are, the entire dairy industry and the entire industry of food is today predominantly bali to ho hi rahi hai, but for taste. I don't know why Shastra Vidya is so rejected. Here, the bali that was said was very, very contextual, very rare, in rare conditions. But since that was a karma, the alternative of it that is given to us now is that you do um, karma which is protecting animals. You are feeding the birds, you are giving water in the summers to the birds, you are taking care of the cows. There is a very beautiful floating. I don't know how authentic it is, but it was nice to see. The, one of the social media floaters that keep forwarding in a gaushala, a lady is playing a flute, dressed, of course, traditional lady sari and done her probably nitya puja in the morning, so has her chandan and kumkum, and she plays the flute. Krishnani Begane Baro. If someone knows of that bhajan, it's a very beautiful classical bhajan and very. It's a bhav of Krishna prem, and the flute. The lady is playing a flute of this Krishnani Begane Baro in a gaushala. And the video is initially they're just showing how the all the cows are just scattered everywhere and busy in their whatever. But the minute she starts playing slowly, 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 how first the calves start coming towards her. When the calves are coming towards her, and they start nudging her and snuggling into her, and then there's a change of behavior in the gaushala. Now, that gaushala is you're protecting your vision of animals in particular is they are divine. It's very unlike how people keep pets today. We keep pets for our own fashion. We keep pets for our own uh, egoism. But Vedic view, all animals are also equally treated as a life form of the divine. So even when we take milk from them, the cows are revered because the milk is nourishing us. We are taking something from them. Therefore, we do something for them. We are taking, we are absorbing the food they are giving us. Therefore, we should do something for them. That is your Bhuta Yajna. How we do it, as we said, our lifestyles have changed. We will have to modify it according to our lifestyle. But that is what Shastra tells us. And then the last one was Manushya Yajna. Manushya Yajna, again, in those days, they said Atithi Deva Puja. Atithi Puja meant a Tithi who comes unannounced without taking appointment, beforehand, which is almost gone now. But in those days, because people traveled and etc., etc., so I'm sure the logistics meant that if someone came to your home unannounced, they really needed shelter and food. So you treated them like an opportunity to do Manushya Yajna. That Manushya Yajna is, in present context, you can call them as various social services that you can do, contributing back to society. All these are these Pancha Mahayajnas, they are called, means primary. There are many more than that, variously broken, but these are your primary. You take from these five sources. I hope I've made it clear. What are the five sources? Adhyapanam means you have the knowledge that is there given to you in your parampara और आपके बड़ों से आपने सुनी है, growing up they were your protectors, etc. आपकी lineage जिसमें है, those rishis you owe something to that rishi. We are a rishi kula. We are entirely rishi प्रोजेनी. हमारे पूर्वज ऋषि हैं सारे. So that rishi you have benefited from. So adhyapanam is your obligation. Pitras, your ancestors, you have benefited from, but for their struggles you wouldn't be born in this lineage. You won't, therefore you have an obligation to them. Devtas, I have explained, you are taking from them, therefore you have an obligation there. Animals you are taking from, therefore you have an obligation there. Animals includes plants also. And people we take from. A farmer puts in a lot of effort to produce food, etc. So there's so many people around us. We cannot go on repaying each one. But if we do what we are in return as a social obligation, that is also a yajna. So yajna becomes a central force, according to Bhagavad Gita, is where sustenance of life and creation rests on a human's capacity to do yajna, not only the external creation, but your own shreyo gati rests on yajna. So, both ways, in the external world, the sustenance of the world is centered on yajna, and your internal gati is also focused, centered on yajna. These are the verses that he's talking about from ninth verse he started. I'll just share the screen. Where is the screen? not this. Not this. How do I stop it? Um, where is it? 1 minute, please. I have so many windows open. I just don't know which one is the real window. Though I do take care to make sure I have the right window open. Maybe I have closed it. Okay, I guess I don't know where is that window. Doesn't must be here. That's right. Got it. I can see it here, but I can't see it in the share. Here it is. Whew. So here, so in the ninth verse, we saw, I have summarized the following verses that have come, and we'll quickly go through them now. In the eighth verse, Krishna said, Niyatam kuru karmatvam. Do your niyata karma, because doing karma is better than not doing karma. Of course, here niyatam means karma yoga, but karma itself means even if you do it with your fruits, as I said in the last class, even that is better than not doing it all. So at least first keep yourself, the rajas in you should not be subdued without it being purified to sattva. So rajas keeps us in action. Be active, even if it is for fruits starting, doesn't matter. Even if it is ragadvesh, at least start from there. Then the process of purification starts. Then you come to karam yoga. Therefore, niyatam kuru karmatvam. Even for the sake of maintenance, you have to remain active. Then ninth verse, he said, yajnarthat karmano hi atra lokaha. For the sake of yajna, now I think the whole concept should be clear. Excuse me. We'll go on. It takes a little time to digest because there's so many intricate concepts that are interwoven in these words. So there's some reflection that is needed to understand them. For the sake of yajna, convert your actions with that bhav in you. Otherwise, karmas bind. Therefore, start with detachment to the results, mukta sangaha. For the sake of yajna, do them. Now, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and 13th, 14th, and 15th verse. 16th, he concludes to some extent. These are all yajna. Now, yajnarthat karmano, we've done this. Saha yajna praja srishtva. Purovacha prajapatihi. Anena prasavishyatvam esha vaha as esha vaha astu ishtakamatuk. Sorry, excuse me. When we talk non-stop, the studies say your oxygen drops to your brain. So then the brain gets disoriented. So Sahayagnya Praja Srishtva Purovacha Prajapatihi Anena Prasavishyatvam Esha Vaha Hastu Kamaduk Esha Vaha. Where am I? 10th verse. No? So along with Sahayagnya, let me redo the whole verse with a fresh mind. Pura, 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 right in the beginning. In the very beginning, Prajapati, the very creator. Prajapati is another name for Brahmaji. Praja is people, Patihi is the master. So Prajapati, who's the master of people, who's the ruler of people, who's the controller of people. All these English words are actually very, very misleading. Um, my voice is echoing?
No, it's clear.
Okay. So the Prajapati is Brahmaji, means Ishvara himself. In the role of a creator is Brahmaji. That Brahmaji, the Lord of creation, as I said, the department of creation who has, in an organization you have various departments. So when you have a department of, if you're into say some creative work, then there will be a department of creation, then there'll be a department of bringing that into action, then there'll be a department of marketing, then there'll be a department of sales, then there'll be a department of after sales, etc., etc. So creation also has these departments. Ishvara has delegated them. Hey, sub, all of them are non-separate from Brahman. They are not different deities. Their departments are different, but all of them have a source only in one power, Brahman. They all get their power from the same source. So when Brahmaji started the creation on the behest of Ishvara, saying now is the time to give creation as a blessing to people who have their karma phalas, and this kalpa, you are the creator, you are Brahmaji. For every kalpa, we have one Brahmaji. So for this kalpa, when Brahmaji started, he started the creation. When he made the praja, he did it along with the praja and yajna were created together. There is a question because of some other hearing, maybe people get confused. Saha yajna, they attach it with Prajapati. They think it is an adjective for Prajapati. So when you say Saha Yagnya, that means Prajapati created along with Yagnya. He also did a sacrifice. If you take the word of Yagnya as sacrifice, that is where the confusion lies. Prajapati, sorry, Saha Yagnya is along with Praja. Saha is along with. Along with means when the praja was created, Prajapati also along with created yajna. He embedded yajna. Embedded is the right word. He embedded yajna in creation. What is Prajapati? He is the Lord of creation. That Lord of creation embedded in his hands are the four Vedas. Vedas is that knowledge. He embedded the knowledge of sustenance of creation and the evolution of the person along with creation. They all came together. ज्ञान और सृष्टि साथ उत्पन्न हुए हैं. ज्ञान भी साथ में ही क्रिएशन के उत्पन्न हुआ. दैट इज हाउ वी कीप हैविंग discoveries. Entire science is a discovery. What is it? How can you discover if it was not already there? Yajna means Bhagwan created all this. It's already there. We are only learning it as we keep discovering it. But Bhagwan has placed it. So Saha Yajna Praja Srishtva, having created, he has also embedded Yajna along with it. Uvacha, then he said to creation, what did he say? Anena prasavishyatvam eshaha. Eshaha means Yajnaha. Along with this Yajnaha, Anena, this Yajna, along with this Yajna, Esha is this, Anena refers to Yajna. Along with this Yajna, Prasavishyatvam, may you all, it is to be inferred. May you all means to Praja, he has said, may you all prosper, grow with this Yajna. So Prajapati, when he made, see our theory of creation is so beautiful. In other religions, what is the theory of creation? I won't elaborate. We know. What is our theory of creation is what I should elaborate. In our theory of creation, Bhagwan created the world for beings to live their own karma phal and keep moving towards their gati, charter their own life course as they wish. Along with gave us a specific tool, a unique, call it a gift. It's a tool he gave us to human beings. And what is that tool? Yajna. May you use this yajna to prosper, to grow, and whatever ishta kama duk, may it become your kamadhenu. Kamadhenu means she is a mythological cow who is a fulfiller of your desires. Ishta, your desired, whatever you desire, may you get them. Through yajna, employ the tool of yajna to get whatever you want. Whatever you want. Yajna is your tool. So may you prosper, may you grow along with this that I have. Bhagwan says, Prajapati says, Vacha, this is quote unquote. It is in the form of a statement Prajapati is making. What is it? Anena prasavishyatvam esha vaha ishtakamaduk astu. May you prosper. May this yajna be your kamadhenu. And with this, you get your desired results. Whatever you desire, may you get them. And then in the next verse, he says, Devan bhavayata anena te devaha bhavayantu vaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreyaha parama vapsyata. May the devas be pleased by your offering. Means may they also prosper. Now this is purely, I am going to call it Vedic science. Purely because it is on your Shraddha. How? By doing our homas to our respective devas, how does it help them? My senses will not know. I have to have Shraddha here onwards in the Vedas, that it helps the creation, which are these elemental forces, to maintain in a harmony. It helps them, is what the statement says. How it helps them is not in the purview of our explanation, because our senses cannot understand. As a प्रमाण, दृश्यम कभी भी नहीं होगा हमारे सामने कि ये ऐसे हुआ. It will have to be on faith, and it will always be an understanding, and then we can see it operating. We can recognize its operation through buddhi. अनुमान से हम समझ सकते हैं, मगर दृश्यम प्रत्यक्ष प्रमाण से नहीं समझ सकते. So देवों को, how they prosper by my oblation, I have to take it on faith, Shraddha, that they prosper. Prosper means vardhate. Shankara says they also grow. And I am interpreting it to say the harmony of the five elements remains. That means we don't get unusual, what we today call as climate change. This climate change is an effect of lack of yajna. There are many layers at which one can explain yajna. Now, this is the best at this point in a condensed way that one can. But climate change is directly an influence of less people doing their karma. That's a very clear thing. When we have become more self oriented, selfish oriented, when we are taking more from creation than giving back to creation, we are uh, upsetting the cycle of the harmonious cycle of creation. We are upsetting that balance of creation, the cycle which keeps the rains coming at the right time, the winter coming at the right, but everything is as if pre-programmed, and it's all healthy. You will never find in creation anywhere decay the way man creates. We have piles of plastics and we have piles of uncyclable material, but creation has recycling system embedded, beautifully programmed, if we don't interfere with it. So how our yajna, our karma helps in maintaining the balance of, again I forget the word, climate, regulates it, sorry, Srishti, the climate change, the harmony of Srishti, how that man manages, we know that it does. So the devas also prosper, and parasparam bhavayantaha. How beautiful is this give and take? They are benefiting you by giving you rain, by giving you sun at the right time. Even the moon is giving you the soma, the juices with which the plants have nutrition in it, what we call as vitamins. Why do we need multivitamins today as pills? Actually, the vitamins are already there in the food if we allow the cycle to remain as nature has programmed it. If some of us saw this during COVID times, we all saw it, that how even a few days of lockdown and our skies were blue again, and there was so much naturalness that had returned back. Our rivers had cleaned up. Even now, in these 2 3 days, at least in Delhi, I can say, when because of what did we have this government of function we had G20, because of G20, trust, this was beautiful. Even in one day that the traffic had got less, the sky had got blue again. That means it's evident we are the ones who are upsetting the cycle. Vedas tell us we have that danger in us because of our desires. More and more sense pleasures will make us become greater takers of creation. We have to regulate our senses. We have to be master of them. We have to control our pleasure intake. We have to control our sense intake. We are the ones who have to regulate it. That yajna is your obligation. You are the one who is a consumer. You overconsume creation because of your pleasure. Therefore, you regulate them, and yajna is a way to regulate them. So, parasparam bhavayantaha. May you offer to the devtas, and may those devtas bless you back and you grow with it. Both of you prosper. Shreyaha paramavapsyatha, and may you gain your shreyas through this mutually dependent state. Avapsyatha, may you gain that by nourishing each other, by help, by mutually supporting each other. I think I'll end here. We'll continue tomorrow. I wanted to finish this yajna today, but I think the explanation went a little longer than intended. But I hope it was clear now as much as can get. Okay, we'll end here. What are the duties of the controller? Controller really has, if we take the duty word as we understand the duty, controller has no duty. All that the controller does is follow his own niyamas that he started the creation with. That's his only duty, if you call it a duty. But he's free of all duties. If he also has certain duties, bichara. He doesn't have any duty and yet he benefits us. Okay. Thank you so much. I think I will end here. My head's woolly because of lack of oxygen. Thank you so much. I'll just end the class with the Shanti mantra. And I am once again requesting. I know I have been a little lenient in the last few times, but sometimes the leniency needs to be picked up into a little more towards strictness or at least assertion of the discipline. Shastra Vidya has its own disciplines. I request everyone to please join on time. Just before the class starts, 1 or 2 minutes is also okay, good enough. More because our minds can be more tuned to the subject. If we are helter shelter running, it may not benefit so much. Come attend on, be on time, and you'll see a lot of your mind will be relaxed to receive the knowledge. So I'll end the class here. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma kaschit dukha bhag bhave. Om swasti prajabhyav paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahishaah go brahmanebhyah shubhamastu nityam loka samasta sukhino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah पृथ्वी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ओम् श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम् Thank you, everyone. I'm just
Pranam.
pranam. Dhanyavad,
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
Dhanyavad. Thank you.